The saw that I'm offering for sale is a 2150A PC3S. This saw cuts 25 inches tall and almost 21 inches deep. We actually had measured it at 21 inches deep. It's rated for 20, so I won't say that it actually cuts the full 21 inches that we were measuring. It comes with a automatic feeder and originally has a little bit of extra guarding in front of the feeder, which is here and comes with the machine. The reason why the guarding is not on here currently is twofold. One, you can see that the brackets for the guarding got bent when the previous owner had their people uninstall it. And two, because we saw it more as in the way than being valuable. There's also a lower wheel guard that is with the saw here. However, on the saw at this time, there is no lower wheel guard, and it works fine without that. We left it off. It's easier to change blades. The saw, as near as we could tell from the computer information, had a little over 20 hours of use on it previous to our purchasing the saw. It was in a training center, and when the training center decided they didn't want the saw anymore, I don't know if they're still in use or not as far as the training center itself. When they didn't want it, they had left it in a cold building. Condensation got on the surfaces and left a little rust color on several of the surfaces, but no real major damage, but yes, moisture. The paint is all good. The machine works good. They had left the coolant pan. They didn't take it with the saw. Along with bending up those guards, they didn't leave the coolant pan with it. And so, since we have in our shop a large gap, as you can see in the floor where the saw went, we wanted to bridge that gap and make a coolant pan at the same time. So we made a coolant pan that is strong enough to where the saw can be supported off of the pan the way it is. We also wanted to make sure we had lots of flood coolant, so instead of the normal 8 horse coolant pump that's in it, we put in a 1/4 horse, and we put the correct motor overload relay in the control box to match with this pump. Also, as we've seen on some of our other saws, it's handy to have a good screen. So we put a good screen in after the pump to make sure that things do not clog up. Another dent in this box didn't affect any of the internals, but they did dent this when they were removing it. Overall, the guys that removed this saw were pretty rough. I bought the saw at auction, and we put it in our shop. You can see that it's hardwired. I'll go ahead and open up the electric panel so you can see that the electric panel is also very clean inside. We did not even dust out the electrical panel. It's, like I say, it's a pretty new saw. The electrical wiring diagram and the manual for the variable frequency drive are in the pocket where they're supposed to be. Close that back up. The original shipping manufacture date for this machine is January 18th, 2016. So it's a pretty new saw all in all. When we made our base, we made it with shackle points for actually lifting it up, so we can pick it up totally with the crane with the feeder in place. We have the manual for the saw here. We have on the saw currently some little bit wider jaws, some square jaws, which the factory also offers, but it came to us with the triangular jaws. We made these ourselves quickly. We did not face them to square them up yet, but they are here with the saw. We probably will mill them down and square up the faces, which we have the capability to do here in the shop. We also, because this saw is more of an automatic saw than normally for manual use, you'll notice that the T-slots on this table are at the far outside, and I don't have T-slots in the middle. A lot of the manual saws that we've been acquainted with in the past had T-slots in the middle, and we found that very helpful for small work that we do. So we made, which comes with the saw, we made this sub base that goes on top of the other base, bolts down with T-nuts in 4 places. Then it has a series of T-nuts all along it so that you can put a separate vise, you can put a dividing head on here, you can clamp directly down if you have something you want to cut, and it's just really handy for the type of work that we usually do. We, underneath the table there is the original blade that was on the saw and the original blade, original vise clamps that have the angle to them. The angle allows you to cut a full 60 degrees in both directions. We're happier for us to have more support and have it go just 60 degrees to one side and perpendicular, or vertical, perpendicular to the table. I'll move this out of the way. The screen, as you can see here, looks fairly clean with the original protective cover on it. This is the only protective cover that's been on this machine yet, and if we pull it back, you will see that the screen itself is just near perfect. If we don't sell the saw, we'll buy a case of these protective covers, but this is the factory one that came with it. And it had one little place where some tape had been put on top of it for putting a tarp over this when it was sold at auction. If we start up the saw, we wait a little bit for the controls to come up and say we're all active. We can see that there is power up and down for the blade guide. It's pretty much power for everything. If we go to the tilt mode, we can put the saw to, well, let me run the blade back so it's out of the way. Oops, wrong one. The blade back, that one. Okay. We can quickly I should push the automatic angle, yes. Let the saw do its own thing. That's better. Okay, so it is running over to the 15-degree position. And it slows down a little bit when it gets close to the 15 degrees so that it can get a precise 15-degree angle. Of course, you can also select 45s. In fact, I will stop and run it over to 45. Select 45, you can select 60. Stop it again. Let's go back to the touch screen here for cutting, and this is something not just for the fact of working with this saw, but if you have any of these saws, something that I did not at first catch on in the manual, I didn't catch on the fact that to lock the vise clamped, you have to enable the vise clamp, you have to clamp the vise, and you have to immediately push the lock. If you do not immediately push the lock, the saw will not allow you to cut anything. This was actually a problem we had for quite some time, not realizing how the control worked. Again, if we open the vise, We go to close it. Before you can close it, you enable a vice clamp, which is obvious, and you can close it. But if you stop after closing it and want to lock it, it will not lock. You need to close it, need to enable it again, close it, and immediately lock it. We missed that point in the manual and actually made us 2 months late in getting the saw into operation. The saw will, if we push the cut part here, the saw will go into cutting. I don't know why we are cutting so slow right now. Oh, because the coolant is off. We turn on the coolant. And the saw is still cutting slow. Have I got the blades set that low? I don't know. Go to home. Manual saw controls. Home. No, back to manual. Cutting chart. Cutting chart. Yeah, it was set at 60. Somebody must have been playing with it, or we were cutting some different steel. Might have been cutting some 4140. Anyway, if we set this for use these settings on the carbon steel, it allows you to pick which settings. You have a chart that drops down. You can pick the steel that you want to cut, which makes it kind of handy. It will automatically pick up. Now we're at 315 feet per minute, and that seems a little bit more like where it was running last I used it. Yes, that looks more normal. I'm going to go ahead and run the saw back. I'm going to put the saw... No, not that one. I need to go back to another screen. I want to go to 0. Then we'll let the saw straighten up. I'll shut this off for a little bit and we will do some actual cutting. Okay, I have got a piece of tubing, thick wall tubing, and we will now cut that. It's just small tubing. I'll post some other videos later cutting some more miscellaneous things on the saw. Go to manual controls, push to begin sawing. And I could have rapided the saw up, but it'll get there. There's also the washdown sprayer on the saw here. And we will return the saw blade back. Stop. I will unclamp the vise. I will do the auto move. Okay, we will turn on the auto move here. I have it set to go 1 inch 70 thousandths. That should give us approximately a 1 inch piece. I've got a 70 thousandths inch kerf on the current saw blade. So if we go move, there, it moved. Then we can close the vise for the saw again. And remember to do that quickly. Okay, now the saw is closed. We can proceed cutting off another piece. left the guide up. You can run the guide down while it's cutting if you want. The guide is closer to the piece being cut for a straighter part the way that it should be. And run the blade back again. I'm running it back slow this time. I'm going to turn off the control there. It's a nice saw. The automatic feed portion there, which is fully computer programmable, is not something we're going to use a lot in the shop here, and that's why we've decided it's just better for us to sell the saw and put our Model 81 Marvel back in. It's just not as valuable of a saw, but is good enough for what we do. If, of course, I'm not going to, if there's nobody that wants to seriously buy the saw, then we'll just keep it, and it may continue on as a star in our shop. We will post some more videos of the saw cutting other things here in the next few days, but we just wanted to get something up to let people start looking at a nice saw in case they're needing one for their shop.